Thanks for joining, Barry. There
Miss
you go.
Ruth
Okay, Champions
Bibas.
League 2021. That's me.
Yeah, do what you got. Listen, do what you gotta do on Instagram, and then we're already live on my YouTube channel, so we're good to go there.
Okay, so let's get right into it.
So I'm ready to
Let's
go.
not waste our time. Let's get into it. This is the best game in the world, so let's just start talking about it. Let me try and
Yeah, and this is not that formal either. Like
pin this really
I'm not really
quickly.
trying to make this too
We can
formal.
wait a little bit to see if let's just see if a couple of people. Let's just wait until just a few people
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um
There.
join. Thank you guys for coming. Okay, let's get started. We're going to talk a little bit about like everything European soccer and then a little bit more of also South America. Um, let's start with how about you introduce yourself to my Instagram followers?
Ladies and gents, it's a pleasure being here with the season recap. We're pretty much gonna go over everything that happened during the 2021 season. A season that honestly left a lot because we came from the 20, or I should say the 1920 season, which was kind of off because it got broken up right, I would just say what, right in the middle or right maybe three-fourths into the season. Soccer was pretty much
Basically.
stopped in every league, pretty much everywhere. And this new season came along with a lot of changes. It came along with obviously, new protocols that the teams had to follow. Obviously, no fans at the stadiums. But we're gonna probably just go over, the top five leagues, pretty much going over what happened in Italy, what happened in France, something that maybe we weren't expecting as far as Lille taking the championship. We're also gonna
I know I wasn't expecting that for sure.
I wasn't that for sure. I wasn't expecting that for sure. Obviously, what happened in Italy, Inter taking a title after 10 years, taking it back from Juventus, which was pretty much leading. Obviously, the same
It's
story
great.
going on in Germany, where Bayern Munich took the title again. The beautiful race in La
For the
Liga. I'm
ninth
one of the
year in a
first
row.
persons, people, whatever you want to call it, to criticize the Spanish league. But obviously, this year was pretty excited to watch it.
That's why
Um,
I'm very excited to talk to you about the Spanish league because I know you're one of the biggest haters on it, and
yeah.
this season is very exciting. So I can't wait to hear your take on this.
No, we have a lot to talk about, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the Champions League, what's expected for tomorrow. Also, what happened the other day in the Europa League final, which in my opinion was one of the best penalty shootouts I've ever seen. So clean, so
For sure.
just
And history was made. I mean, a club took an international trophy for the first time in their history.
for the first time in their history. But honestly, like I think we have to also highlight what the penalty shootout was. It was a 10-11
Incredible.
shootout. No one missed, and the penalties were taken perfectly. Pretty much impossible for
Perfectly.
the keepers to stop them.
Yep.
And obviously, what's going to happen tomorrow in the Champions League final, where obviously, in my opinion, City's a favorite, but we'll see what happens. And going over what's coming up, we have two very important tournaments in South America, such as Copa Libertadores, Copa Sudamericana. We already know what's going to be the round of 16, and also Copa America's coming up as long as World Cup qualifiers. So we have a lot to talk about. If you want to go ahead and start with the top five leagues, or you want to start with the Champions League, which one do you want to
Let's start.
you want to
Let's
go
start with
with?
the top five leagues, and let's talk about what just happened. We just wrapped that up. We finally know who each of the winners are. Who's going to go to Champions League next season? A lot of firing and hiring has been happening in the past 2 days, with in between like Spain and Italy,
Mm-hmm.
with Zinedine Zidane finally leaving Madrid, and there's a little bit of like drama around that. We knew that Zinedine Zidane and Florentino Perez have had a great relationship ever since he first started with Madrid with Castilla. He always felt like he was like backed up by his by
By the
the
board.
president, and now he feels like he's not anymore. And there's a little bit of, you don't know what's happening. There's a little bit of drama. I need to know more. I don't know about you. I think Zinedine is just like, he doesn't want to be in charge of having to restart a new Madrid, a Madrid that the season gave us nothing. They made it kind of far in the Champions League. They fought until the very last end in La Liga.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because basically Barcelona and Sevilla gifted it to them. And they're like, hey, even though we had a chance, let's just here you go, Madrid. Just maybe take it. But they weren't able really to do that. They need to sell a lot of players and buy new players and kind of do a reconstruction of the team. And I think Zidane didn't want to do that, which is a little bit like, I get it, but it may be a little bit cowardly too. Like, why not be a part of this reconstruction of this team and not only leave Madrid with like the history of you winning 3 Champions League in a row, but also being the reason that Madrid comes back to becoming the Madrid we all knew that it was. But I think he's just done.
Listen, this is, in my opinion, the amount of disrespect that's been given to Zinedine Zidane and Real Madrid has just been outstanding. So much disrespect. Listen, if you have a guy out there that wins you 3 Champions Leagues back to back, you have to give him a little bit more respect. Also, a club, I wouldn't say a club legend because I don't think Zidane is a club legend for Real Madrid, but he's a very important player that went through the team as well.
For sure.
But in somebody, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was Chris Aldana that was commenting down here. He was telling us the new Madrid is very very poor. Listen, we got to take into consideration two things. Last season, Real Madrid did very poorly. They got lucky that Barcelona slipped towards the end, that they lost that 10 point lead they had at one point. Just like Atletico had this year as well, and they ended up slacking and losing the league. Real Madrid ended up taking the league, but it was a season that was very poor for them. If we take it back, we can remember Real Madrid losing to, if I'm not mistaken, Alcorcón, which is like a second or third division team in Copa del Rey. Very, very poor season in Champions League where they barely made it through. And when they did made it through, they struggled with Manchester City in the round of 16. Remember, there was this whole thing going on that either they make it or they don't make it. They ended up making it in the last game of the regular group stage games, and then they struggled in the round of 16. And obviously, listen, Cincinnati just hasn't found a way. Also, we have to say that after Real Madrid spent the amount of money they spent building their stadium, which is obviously was very important for them, they haven't been able to acquire any important pieces. And obviously, the departure of Cristiano Ronaldo has been tremendously negative for them. A player that it was pretty much everything for them. They were heavily dependent on them. So again, in my opinion, I think it is time for Zinedine Zidane to be like, okay, listen, it's time for me to leave. It's a break. Just like he left right after he won the Champions Leagues and then he came back. I feel like he could do exactly the same thing over again. But at the same time, he hasn't had a lot of weapons to fight with. It's been, the team has been, first stroke with an outbreak of COVID, then the different injuries, completely dependent on Benzema, a team that was completely dependent on Benzema on some points of the season. So again, you can't really, it's kind of hard to judge his work. But if we take into consideration the last 2 years, they've been very poor. He hasn't been able to achieve, other than the league that we talked about last year that he took from Barcelona in the last couple of games, he really hasn't been able to snatch anything important. And I think that's what's honestly earning the way out of the Real Madrid locker room. Again, in my opinion, outstanding coach. But again, I think Real Madrid needs a little bit of refreshness. They need to switch things around in the locker room.
It definitely
At
do.
one point, they were talking about bringing Cristiano Ronaldo back. Now that since he's leaving Juventus, I don't think that's a great idea. I think once certain cycles are closed, they should be remain closed. Like for example with Suarez.
100%.
Um,
I don't think he's gonna come back either. I also think there was a very big factor in the reason why Cristiano Ronaldo left Spain, and that was like a lot of outside of soccer situations that he's not gonna go back to Spain for. He's done. He wants a new challenge probably. If Juventus is not giving him what he wants either, Madrid is not gonna give it to him now. So he's like, let's see where else can I go and kind of leave my mark and say that, hey, I'm not just huge in these three these three big teams. Now maybe this fourth team that I join, I will also be able to like make them or like take them somewhere like huge. Because it also adds up to his ego that we know Ronaldo loves doing that.
Oh, of course.
Because
But
he's
I,
the type of player to do that. He can do that.
but I mean to stay within the range of La Liga. Listen, and I said it before the season. I said it during the season, and I said it almost towards the end of the season. This was a year that Real Madrid. I mean, excuse me. This was a year that Atletico Madrid had the chance to obtain La Liga. Why? Because Barcelona was doing really, really poor. We know Barcelona is another team that, just like Real Madrid, is Benzema dependent. Messi is the one that everybody relies on in Barcelona. I'm the number
Yeah.
one person that criticizes him because I think that sometimes the press doesn't say what they have to say about him. I think he's a extraordinary player. He's the best player in the world. I said it a lot of times, even better than Cristiano Ronaldo, in my opinion. But again, he hasn't had good seasons. We can talk about he hasn't scored, he hasn't assisted in 7 Clásicos. We could talk about the fact that all of his goals this season, which he had a tremendous amount of goals, were against teams that were from middle table all the way down. So again, I don't like to go and add upon what everybody else says. I like to kind of go ahead and find my own way and criticize and analyze things a little differently. And again, the season from Barcelona was pretty bad. And before it even started, we knew it was going to head in that direction. Griezmann hasn't been able to get himself established in the team. Dembele has been with injuries back to back. Barcelona's selling or getting rid of one of their best players. Listen, you might not like Suarez. Listen, and I completely understand that. But a player that was mainly half of the season injured last season and still provides 16 goals and provides almost 20 assists, that tells you something. So again, they got rid of him.
But you also
And not only they
can't
got
sell a player you also can't sell a player by like claiming that he's like too old and he's not giving you what you want and blah blah blah. But then you go and now you're going to sign Agüero, who's basically the same age as he is.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
how much can he give you? He just gave everything he had for 10 years to Manchester City. He will most likely win a Champions League tomorrow.
I hope
Leave
not.
Manchester City with a treble. He has everything he needs in his pocket.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think he's going to be better than Suarez in Barcelona?
No, listen, and I think the mistake from Barcelona wasn't letting Suarez go. Because listen, you might want to break a relationship or with a player or with a staff member or whatever it is, and that's totally respectful. I mean, that happens. It happens in our line of work. It happens in soccer. It happens in every sport. But again, giving it to one of your closest enemies that fights for La Liga with you every year, then that was a stupid mistake. And let's not leave out the fact that Barcelona has been paying Suarez salary throughout this season. They're in charge of part of Suarez salary in Atletico Madrid. So again, it's like, listen, man, did you not learn back in 2014 with Bibas when you also let him go to Atletico
Nope.
Madrid and he ended up winning the title? Did you not learn it this time? Well, apparently they didn't. Um,
I mean, they
so
obviously didn't. They gave it to them again. I think Atletico Madrid is just every season going to try and snatch a Barcelona player and in hopes that they end up winning La Liga that season. It happens. But let's get back to the top 5 European teams. Let's get really quickly so we can get into Champions League tomorrow because it's a very exciting game and we have a lot to talk about.
yeah. Now, just to close it off with Spain, again, one of the leagues that I always criticize because it's a two-team league, Barcelona, Real Madrid, but this year I was pretty excited. Again, Atletico Madrid did what they have to do. They were the most regular team during the season, and they kind of went through and took advantage of the fact that Real Madrid and Barcelona weren't at the best moment. They ended up pulling
Yeah.
it through, and they won La Liga. Honestly, super excited for them. And let's see how this affects, Diego Pablo Simeone, Cholo
I was
Simeone,
about
towards
to
the
ask
future.
before we close, where do you think this is going to take him? Does he stay? Does he go?
He's gonna stay. He was gonna stay. Even if he lost the league, he would have stayed. Listen, he's the highest manager paid in the world. 26
Yeah.
million euros a year. That's a lot of money for a manager. That's almost what Cristiano Ronaldo is making right now in Juventus. So again, he had to take this league. And I said if he
Yeah.
didn't take this league, he had to leave. Listen, you might like Simeone or you might not like him. He's done some amazing things at Atletico Madrid, but this was the league to take it, and I was honestly
Yeah.
super excited. Not for Atletico, not for Barcelona, not for Real Madrid, but just to see
But
a
for
La
him.
Liga that was so competitive towards the end, and it was really enjoyable to watch. That's with Spain. I don't know if you have something else to mention regarding Spain,
No, you
but
said it all. I needed to hear from one of the biggest haters that I know on La Liga your take on this year because I mean obviously COVID brings in and the fact that there are no there were like no spectators, so because spectators and fans are basically like the 13th player on that, like on the 12th player on that field. But I needed to hear your point on this. But yeah, you covered everything basically, and it's true. We'll see what happens next season. Things are definitely going to change. We're gonna have like seeing fans back in the stadium. There should be a reconstruction on both Madrid and Barcelona and see how they do it. They have big signings coming up. Madrid just signed Alaba from Bayern Munich. Barcelona has Agüero. There's like a verbal contract. He's going to be presented in like June after the Champions League. They'll say it that like officially. So we'll see what's going to happen this summer. It all depends on who gets hired. Also, what coach does Madrid end up having with? Is Koeman going to stay? Is he not going to stay? Because it seems like it's kind of like those things that like right now you're good enough for now, but if we find a replacement that's better, we'll leave.
yeah.
Like you'll leave. So it's you never know. Next season could be just as exciting.
I don't know, man. I know people that are happy with Coleman. I know people that are not happy with him. Honestly, I don't think he's a bad coach, to be honest. He came through and he did
Look
what
what
he
he
had to
did
do.
with
But
Barcelona from the Barcelona they gifted him into the Barcelona that ended the season. Yeah, they won La Copa del Rey, and for a lot of people that's not enough, but that's a lot for this Barcelona. That's huge, and especially the way that they did it in the comebacks, and it wasn't like a 2016 PSG comeback that, yes, it was historic, but it did nothing because then they lost horribly. This time they were able to turn it back, come back, and actually go to the finals and win it.
yeah,
And they were fighting until the last 3 games in La Liga also. A Liga that in November they were in 14th. We didn't even know if they were going to end up in any European position at all. So he's bringing them to a Champions League, gave them a Copa del Rey that Barcelona hasn't won in a couple of years, which is a cup or a championship that Barcelona it knows and loves to win, and still ended up in the top 3 in La Liga. You have to give the guy
no, of course.
the praise that he deserves.
You have to give him the credit that he deserves. Of course, that's there's no doubt about that. That's why I wanted to emphasize before the end of touching La Liga, I wanted to say I don't think he's done such a horrible job, especially because he didn't pick none of the players he has, and he has to. He's been dealing with injuries. He's been dealing with
Exactly.
many other things that obviously led to him not having the greatest season as a coach. I think he can probably begin a process. I don't know with Agüero, but maybe with a couple of other players. Maybe Barcelona can be smart enough this year to buy what's necessary and not what they want, and maybe not work later on. But again,
Right.
it's we'll see what happens. Again, this just ended and ended this past weekend. So again, we have a lot to talk about coming up.
There's so
Who's
much.
gonna
Yeah.
end up in Real Madrid? We don't know that yet. There was a couple of rumors, strong, heavy rumors talking about Allegri going to Real Madrid. Well, today he was announced as a
He's
Juventus
now
coach.
Juventus. Yep.
He's back in the Juventus locker room, so that's not it. So again, regarding Spain, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. You know, players coming in, coming out, who's coming, who's going, and again, we'll have a lot of time to talk about that. Let's talk about Italy because I think that one was one of my most favorite leagues to watch this year. Why? Because Inter
Incredible.
Milan ended up taking the title. Finally, no more Juventus. Finally, no
Yep.
more
And early
Juventus.
on, we didn't even
Finally.
have to wait until the last weekend to find out. They did it. What Conte did to this team and what like it's unbelievable. And not just that, but AC Milan after 7 years is finally back in the Champions League.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's been such a turnaround in the Italian league, and it's been such a turnaround that Juventus struggled into the last game of the season to find out that they were going to make it to Champions League. A team that
If
has
it
been
wasn't
winning.
because Napoli tied, we would have seen Cristiano Ronaldo play in the Europa League next season.
That would have been crazy. And that's another story that we can go ahead and touch. I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo's staying in Juventus. I really don't think he's staying.
He's
I think
not.
his options are either Manchester United or PSG. To be real honest with you, I don't think he's staying at Juventus. There's a couple of
No.
information that's been, brought up, such as the fact that he's taking all his sports car out of Italy. He's already shipping them back somewhere else. Nobody knows where. But again, I can tell you right now, Cristiano Ronaldo's not staying in Italy.
He's
Juventus
not.
can't afford
His
another year of his
cryptic
salary.
Instagram message basically said so, that he's done with whatever Juventus gave him, and he's so happy that he was able to be a part of whatever Juventus did with him in the last
Yeah.
seasons. But I agree with you. I think he's gone, and I don't know if he's going to end up at Manchester United. I think PSG is going to end up giving him a little bit more of what he's looking for and what he wants, with most likely Mbappe leaving the summer and going to Madrid.
And
They're
that's the
going to
thing,
need
exactly.
that player
Is my
that's going to
is
take
is he
that
gonna be
spot.
is he gonna be the short-term replacement for Mbappe and PSG?
Right.
Mbappe going to Real Madrid. People are saying that Mbappe is staying. Francisco Aure asked us
Yeah,
if
yeah,
we see
Cristiano
ourselves
Ronaldo's
perhaps in the
definitely going to
radar of
Peñarol.
Peñarol. I don't think they can.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. With his salary, we could probably pay for the entire club. But I mean, I don't know. Listen, those are his two options. People were talking about going back to Sporting. He wanted to give his mom kind of the good feeling of watching him play once again
Right.
for the team that he's always been a fan of. I don't think he's going to Sporting. I still think he has a little more. So
His agent already
United
said
and
no,
PSG,
so
in
I
my
doubt
opinion,
it.
are the two destinies for him.
Hmm. For sure.
Destinations.
I think he's going to end up with PSG because Mbappe is going to leave. And PSG not only kind of also gives him one more league for him to go and be like, hey, not only did I go to Spain, England, and Italy, but now I'm also going to France and I'm going to win so many things with PSG. And PSG is dying for a Champions League. That's all they need. They're in France, except for this year when finally Lille took over their reign. They're over the moon. That's their league.
That's
France,
crazy.
no one touches them. They're untouchable. But in Champions League, even though they have an incredible squad, they can't make it that far.
No.
They never end up actually winning. They make it to a final, but they lose it, or they never actually end up making it to a final. So I think PSG can also give him the money that Ronaldo wants. So they not only does it give him the
Yeah.
challenge of Ronaldo being like, hey, now I'm coming to France and I'm gonna take over, and I'm basically also gonna be a champion
He's
here
a record
too.
guy. He just wants
You're
to keep
also gonna
breaking
give me the
records.
salary that I want.
That's pretty much it. He wants to keep breaking records, and he knows he's going to win something with PSG because PSG in France,
Right.
again, they didn't win anything this year, but they win it almost every year. And again, to think about short term, first of all, PSG, we know it's not a team to obviously be scared of making financial
Big push, yeah.
investments. And we know,
Yeah.
making an investment with a figure like Cristiano Ronaldo, who's sponsored by the brand of Nike. PSG's also sponsored by Nike, so obviously good things can happen there.
It
They can
works
get they can get their money back within a couple of months. The money that they invest, if they invest 30 million in him, just selling a couple of jerseys in a matter of 6 months, they can get him back right away, just like Madrid did with
Right.
James back in 2014. So again,
Exactly.
they're not worried about. Trust me, the one thing PSG's not worried about is the money. We
The
just
money,
have to see
yeah.
how it plays out with Mbappe. Is Mbappe really leaving?
Mm-hmm.
Neymar just signed a contract until I believe 2023, if I'm not mistaken, or 2025,
20
one of the two.
2025. He extended it to
2025.
2025.
So again,
After playing around with Barcelona also. So and Neymar has been said it publicly, and I think this is also kind of like a hint to Ronaldo that he played with Messi. He loves playing with Messi. That's like whatever, one of his best friends. But now he wants to play with Ronaldo. He's also one of the best players in the world who he hasn't had a chance to play with, and he's gonna try and get that. And I think Mbappe is also, he wants to grow as a player, and if he stays in PSG, he's not going to. And I think he's gonna be able to. He's gonna leave, and it's gonna end up happening. I don't know if this summer, but very soon. Whether it's not, if it's not this summer, then maybe it's in the winter transfers. So maybe he wants to see who's going to end up being the coach of Madrid. Like, what are the reconstructions that they're going to do before he even decides to actually leave? So maybe he'll stay in the summer, but in the winter he ends up leaving. And then I think Ronaldo is the right choice. I mean, he's the right choice for any team, obviously.
No, I mean,
but he's the right choice.
You know, he's going to provide you goals. You know that. You know, he's going to come through and put at least 20 goals every. It doesn't matter when he goes. He's going to give you 20 goals for sure. So again, that's something that maybe PSG needs, and maybe that little bit of experience of Champions League soccer, of Champions League football. Maybe Ronaldo can bring that in. Again, he's already, you know, if I'm not mistaken, he's 36. If I'm not mistaken, walking into his 37s. If I'm not mistaken, so he's already. You know, you can Google that real quick. He's around there, but he's not a young guy. You know, he's not getting any younger. So again, they can utilize him, but that's why I mentioned the term short term at the beginning, because it's not something you can think about long term. They can bring you a good money, you know, a good revenue within a short period of time. They can probably provide some goals for you, but it's not a player that you want to think far ahead. Again, the key here is to see what happens with Mbappe. People are saying he's already going to Madrid. People are saying he's staying at PSG with Neymar. Again, PSG is a team that, in my opinion, it needs a lot of growth. It needs a lot of maturity. They don't have it enough. They made it to the final last year. They got kind of lucky at one point because they almost lost to Atalanta. If it wasn't for that goal in the last minute, they would have never gotten through. You know, a big slip up from the Italians with only a couple of minutes left. So again, that's the. We'll see what happens with that. But just to emphasize and kind of just finish up the Italian league, Inter finishing first, Milan coming back to the Champions League after a couple of years, Atalanta making their way back into the Champions League as well. They already played it this year. They've been playing it for the last couple of years. And now you see Juventus getting that last spot with 78 points, one in front of Napoli, who ended up with 77 and ended up with the Europa League. So again, you know, I think it's honestly a little bit exciting to see Inter Milan back in the top of the Italian league. Only 3 games lost for Inter this season. I think that the work that Antonio Conte has done in Inter has been amazing, and we can say that they have a really strong squad, but they don't have the best squad in the entire league, in my opinion. They've just been able to work it out, and I think one thing that Inter Milan is owing all of us, it's a good season of Champions League. They've slipped up back and forth, and they always have trouble. I remember 2 years ago when they shared that group with Borussia Dortmund and Barcelona. They couldn't get through. They had a really good style of playing, but they just weren't able to get the results they needed. They struggled this year. They did as well. So again, Italian league, Inter's back up top, and I think the biggest news ever, it's Milan is finally back in Champions League. A team that has won it 7 times is back in the European competition.
It's about time. It's been 7 years.
Long time.
It's been 7 years too long, and I think that the owner of the club took a really nice breath at the end of the season.
Let's move on to the Premier League, one of my favorite leagues and not my favorite league in the world. PSG can be able to afford Cristiano's salary. Yeah, of course, Chris Aldana saying it. And again, if people have comments or they want to ask a question or they want to participate, they're more than welcome.
Leave a comment and we'll talk about it. Especially if it's controversial. We love controversy.
For sure. We know that PSG is not gonna have a problem paying the salary.
That's the least of their concerns.
They don't care about that. That's moving on to the Premier League. Again, a Premier League that was pretty boring this year. Again, Manchester City.
A little bit.
Yeah, it was pretty boring. Listen, Liverpool.
It was boring to find out who was going to win the Premier League, but it was exciting to see who was going to end up actually going to Champions League, because we only had Manchester United and Manchester City, and we knew for sure the two of them were going to go. And it's nice to see that Manchester United is finally kind of finding their way back into who they were. And Manchester City also, the way they were able to turn this around, again, we go back to November and they were very far from being first.
Listen,
and
I was able to narrate the game. They lost 5-1 to Leicester City. Remember that? 5-1 to Leicester City. So again, at one point of the season, Manchester City wasn't good enough. Liverpool was up there for a second. Even Tottenham with Mourinho was pretty much up there as well, fighting for the first couple of spots in the league. But then suddenly they collapsed. Yeah. Suddenly everybody collapsed. Liverpool, I think, in my opinion, what killed them this year was the amount of injuries they had. They just had so many injuries. You know, Virgil van Dijk at the beginning, then Alisson missing a couple of games, then different players. Fabinho, which is a center mid, had to end up playing as a center back, same as Henderson. So again, a lot of negativity, a lot of negative news for Liverpool, who lost a lot of key players. Salah wasn't at his level like he was the last couple of years. Mane lost his level as well.
And he
mistakes.
even says so himself. He knows that like he's struggling. And we also have to put into part that COVID it was a huge like hit, maybe not sporting wise, but psychologically can really screw with a person, and especially with a player who especially with a lot of players that feed off of hearing either haters or fans cheering them on or booing them in stands, and that's how they fuel their game. If they don't have that, then they don't know how to work with it or work without it really. And that could affect you. And like you said, injuries again also show you like, oh, we don't have, if you don't know how to work with what you got, then you're gonna end up slipping up,
Of course.
which is basically what happened.
Let me quickly just go ahead and give a quick shout out to Julio Chaparro from Colombia, from Bogota. He's out there watching us. He's in my YouTube channel, as well as Mauro Hernandez out there as well. They're debating between each other about why is James not called up for the Colombian national team. We'll talk about that in a
Some
second. We'll talk about it in a
injury.
second.
I don't know.
Going back to the EPL, we talked about many factors. Mourinho was sacked from Tottenham, obviously. Leicester City, same thing as last year. All year long in Champions League position. In the last couple of games, they managed to lose it. West Ham had an amazing season. A team that usually it's in relegation zone or it's fighting to get out of relegation zone. They managed to get themselves into European competition this year.
Mm-hmm.
Everton, which at one point really opened my eyes. It looked like a team that had a really good circuit going on. They managed to end
Mm-hmm.
up 10th. Really, struggle season for Ancelotti. And again, that's pretty much it. The Premier League was competitive, I would say, until maybe mid-December, the beginning of January, and then after that,
Right.
City took over. And again,
It'll kind of like fit into place, and everyone just kind of it stayed stagnant.
I think, in my opinion, and this is what sometimes I criticize about City and Guardiola, is the amount of players that Manchester City has. They have so many
Mm-hmm.
players in every position that even if you got a
Yes,
problem with COVID or even if you have a problem with an injury, you're able
you
to
have
you're
someone
able to get
to
somebody to
step up.
back it up. And for example, Liverpool
Exactly.
didn't have anybody to back up Virgil van Dijk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if Salah gets injured, if
And he's
Mane
one of
gets
the most
injured,
important players for Liverpool for sure. And without him, you don't have your back wall anymore.
you don't. And again, it's just, and I agree with the comment there. I think it's Ros Angelica says go Chelsea. Definitely go Chelsea tomorrow for sure. And again, that's the difference between a team that can spend $1,000 million and a team that maybe can. It's that you have many, many players,
Right.
and I think that's what Man City got, beyond the rest of the teams, was the fact that they were able to
Yeah.
pull players. You have Mahrez, you have Gabriel Jesus, you had Agüero, you have Phil Foden, so many players that you could use up front. In the midfield, you have Gundogan, you have Rodri, just so many players,
There's
that you
enough
can use,
to
and
give
then not a
away.
lot of teams are able to do that. So again, I think that was the difference between Man City and the rest of the teams. That's what the team coached by Pep Guardiola was able to take off and win the league with 86 points. The second, closest team to them was Man United, that ended up with 74. Obviously, Champions League spots for next year: Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, and Chelsea are the four chosen ones that will go to the most prestigious European competition of the continent. So again,
The
that's Premier
world.
League.
That is Premier League. Do we want to talk about Germany, or
I
do
don't
we
want to
just
talk
talk
about.
about
Listen, I don't want to talk about German league. Honestly, I really don't. I'm sorry. I don't know if
It's
anybody
kind of
else
the
wants
theme
us
of
to
the
talk about
year.
German league. I'm just so tired of seeing Bayern Munich win it over
I
and
know.
no.
The
That's what I'm
only
saying. I was so
exciting thing
excited
was
when I saw
what
Juventus not winning
Lewandowski
it this
did.
year. With all due respect to my colleague, Mr. Tony Affrate, which he's Italian and he's a loyal Juventus fan, but I was just really tired of
Yeah.
watching them win it every year. So again, it's
You, we all do. We all get tired of watching the same team win over and over and over again. It's like, come on, we need a new one. We need to see fresh blood and needing this. But we do have to talk about Lewandowski at 32 being able to be in the level that he's in. He was still out injured for 4 weeks, but he came back and made it to 41 goals in one season, something that no other player has ever done in Germany, which is huge. And I think that's the only good, like, big exciting thing that happened in Germany. Other than that,
no.
everything else is
Two things I want to point out: Champions League spots, and another thing I want to point out as well. It's two, I don't want to say big teams, but two very prestigious teams in Germany, such as Werder Bremen and Schalke. They've both been
yeah,
relegated. That's something that we do have to
that,
talk
that's
about. Two
huge.
teams that are usually up
That's
there
true.
fighting, at least for European spots. They've been
Mhm.
relegated. Schalke has had a terrible season. 3 wins, 7 ties, and 24 losses. It's just been terrible. A team that at one point would manage to get themselves into a Champions League final. A team that was competing in European level a couple of years ago in Champions League as well. Werder Bremen as well. If we look back into 2006, 2005, a team that was fighting for the Bundesliga every year, they've been relegated. And again, the Champions League spots for this year for the German league are going to be Bayern, Leipzig, Dortmund, and Wolfsburg. Leipzig already getting into that momentum of little by little becoming that team that it's making Champions League every single year. Leipzig a
Every
couple of years ago, we didn't know who they were, and now we're getting
hmm
used to seeing them in Champions League every year. Obviously, their project has been working fantastically, and moving forward, they'll probably have something big going on there. So again, Wolfsburg, Dortmund, Leipzig, and Bayern are gonna be the four chosen to make it to the Champions League next season, the 2021-22. That's Germany. Again, not a lot to talk about Germany. France, we talked about France. Lille taking the league after such a long time.
Finally, after
Uh,
10 years.
Go ahead.
No, that I'm saying, like, finally after 10 years, the last time that they won it, Eden Hazard was in their team. I don't know if anybody remembers that Eden Hazard played for Lille,
Yeah.
but he did, and that was the last time that they won it. And I think the same thing. We just got tired of seeing PSG win Ligue 1 after Ligue 1 after Ligue 1, and Monaco kind of like slipping in once, randomly slipping in and be like, hey, we'll win it this year. It's nice to see a change. It's nice to see a team that doesn't usually fight for the title like the way they fought this season, to be able to take it over, especially during, again, a season that's been very strange for all of us because of COVID. It was definitely very nice to see. I know for a fact, I don't really watch the French league because, again, it's always PSG, and I get tired of leagues that are always the same, except for Spain, because I'm a Barcelona fan, so I will watch it. But it does get very tiring to see the same team over and over winning, and like always, obviously you're gonna do incredible with small teams, but seeing PSG kind of slip up a bit, especially with the squad that they have. You have Neymar and Mbappe at the front. How? It's something that I don't understand it. And it's not just them too. You have an incredible team.
Listen, they even talked about Pochettino leaving PSG and coming back to Tottenham because
And coming back
his
to
job
Tottenham.
hasn't been so
Yeah.
great. And again, when he took over PSG, I really thought that he was going to make something happen there. Because of his personality, because of the type of coach
I think
he
we all
is.
did.
I really thought he was
Yeah.
going to take it through and probably even win the Champions League. In my opinion, they were one of the big favorites to win it. So when they got knocked out, I was very, very surprised, honestly, especially because of the amount of intensity that they showed in the semifinal was just very, very poor. It wasn't good. But other than that, I mean, listen, it is what it is. It's just a matter of fact that we finally saw someone different. We finally saw someone different
Mhm.
taking the lead, and it wasn't Marseille or it wasn't Lyon, which is the other two big teams
Right.
in France. It was Lille,
Right.
you know, a team that we're really
Or
not
even
used to seeing.
Monaco.
And again, for people
Yeah.
that don't know about French soccer, yes, you know, Lille has been a team that historically in France they've been fighting for the top spots. It's a historic team in France. Maybe people now see Manchester City as a big team in England or maybe
Right.
in Europe, and they're really not because we know that Man
Right. They're
City
not.
has
This is a
emerged in the
it's
last couple of
very
years.
recent in their
Before then,
history.
nobody really
Hmm.
knew him because of the injection
Exactly.
of Arab money, of oil money, like they call it. Um,
Yeah.
but again, it's nice to see another champion. It's nice to see somebody else take the trophy. And hopefully that happens in Germany next year because I do not want to see another Bayern Munich win it. Let's move into the Champions League.
Let's talk
Let's
about
talk
this
about that. And
Champions
I'm
League.
actually looking at some things here. There was a couple, today they had the previous training right before the final. I think it's going to be a very interesting final. I want to see how Pep Guardiola is going to come out and plan this game out tactically.
Yes.
Chelsea is a team that's very, very, very dynamic. That's something we have to say. And
Very.
again, I want to see as well as how Chelsea is going to portray their players in the field. I want to see if
Yeah.
Pulisic is going to go from the start. Mason Mount is having such a great timing right now.
Incredible
Um,
season. Yeah.
but it's just interesting. I hope the one thing I hope about is not like that Tottenham versus Liverpool final 2 years ago, where it was
I
again
really hope not.
again for us it was terrible, but Liverpool did what they had to do, like any other team. Obviously for the fans, for the spectators, for the neutrals, it was a terrible game. But for the coach itself, Jurgen Klopp did a very very good tactical plan and ended up earning him the
Right.
Champions League. Obviously it
And
wasn't
it
pretty,
yeah, and it worked.
but not a lot of
Right.
these Atletico Madrid games are not pretty as well, and people still love him, and people still support El Cholo Simeone. So again, sometimes
Yeah.
you have to do what you got to do in order to win. I don't know what you think. My opinion is the favorite city to win it, in my opinion, because of the squad, because of what they've done. They had a great season, even though they
Yeah.
weren't supposed to be in Champions League this season because of what happened with the breaking the financial fair play. They were banned for 2 years, and then out of nowhere they took the ban out. They took away the money fine out as well. Something very very suspicious, if you ask me. But they're
For the
there.
same reason they were not going to play in Manchester, they were not going to play in the Champions League for the next 2 years is probably the same reason they're still playing it, because of the money involved, because of the oil money. Money runs, money moves things, money moves mountains, and we know how UEFA and FIFA love their money. Uh, so they were not. There's something sketchy around that. For sure, I agree with you. I think Manchester City is definitely a favorite, not just because of the squad that they have, and because Guardiola has a little bit maybe more experience in a Champions League than Tuchel does, and but this is also Manchester. It's their first final in their history. It's Agüero's last game ever with the team. And who would not want to end their like history with this club winning a treble? I also think Chelsea has been kind of hit in the past few games by losing that final cup with Leicester, and then losing the past couple games and only making it to a Champions League because Leicester ended up losing to Tottenham the last few seconds. So they were almost even not going to make it to Champions League next season. So that also kind of could also hit you psychologically. We don't think about how that affects you and your players as well. I It's a Champions League final. Everyone's gonna come in ready for blood, but I agree with you. I think Manchester City is definitely the favorite, but Tuchel knows how to play against Guardiola.
Yeah, that's one thing
He
too.
knows how to play him. He knows how to read his game and then change his like kind of strategies to fit the game that Guardiola is trying to play. So I don't think it's gonna go back to a Liverpool Tottenham final. I think it's gonna be a great final. I'm really excited for it for sure. In the past couple of years, I think this is one of the finals that I've been more excited for sure. And there's a lot of young blood that's gonna be on the field, young blood that hasn't won a Champions League, and that's one of, if it's not the World Cup with your club, like with your country, the Champions League is one of the most like wanted champions or wanted trophy by any player that plays in Europe. And so all of these young players that are having a great season, like Mason Mount, Timo Werner, and then you go to Manchester City, Phil Foden, who's having an incredible season, Stones. It's going to be a really exciting game. I think Manchester City is going to win, but I don't think Chelsea's going to let them win this easily.
Listen, my opinion is it's a game that can go both ways. Obviously, Man City has
It
the upper
definitely can.
hand, and here's what we're gonna see what Guardiola's really made of. We're gonna see him how he comes out, he plans his things out. We know the record of Tuchel is definitely positive against Guardiola. He hasn't lost a game against him yet. I think Chelsea might come out with Mendy, Christensen, Silva, Rudiger, and obviously this is the team that I placed. Obviously, it's not based on any information.
Yeah.
Aspilicueta as well, Ben Chilwell,
Who's having an
Jorginho,
incredible
Kante,
season.
Mason Mount, Havertz, and Werner. I think those are going to be the starting 11 for Chelsea tomorrow. We might see some change there. Obviously, Kante going through a great moment. Obviously, Mason Mount going through a
Yeah.
great moment. We do have to say that Kante was benched at one point, but due to the fact that Kovacic got injured, he was able to come back to the squad and he proved himself the way he did. In Manchester City, I kind of had a team of how they were going to come out, but it's really kind of harder to predict. Ederson in the goal, Kyle Walker, Stones, Ruben Diaz, another great season for Ruben Diaz as well,
Incredible
and
season.
Sinchenko playing on the wing. The midfield for Mahrez, Fernandinho, Gundogan, Foden, De Bruyne, and Bruno Silva. I think Bernardo Silva, excuse me. I think those might be the
Yeah.
11 chosen for Guardiola this weekend. Again, it's I don't like to do futurism. I don't like to predict things. I don't like to talk about
Super
what's gonna
anything.
happen. I like
Yeah.
to analyze tactically what's gonna happen. And I'm seeing two very dynamic teams. I'm seeing two teams that are very
Very.
fast, that they've proven that they can do things really well when they have possession of the ball. It's just a matter of see who's gonna strike and who's gonna strike first, and who's gonna be most accurate when they strike. And when I mean accurate is who knows how
Exactly.
to deal with these things better.
Yeah.
And again, when I'm seeing players like Gundogan, when I'm seeing players like Kevin De Bruyne, when I'm seeing players like Mahrez, you know, there's experience there, but there's not really a lot of Champions League experience. And in the other
Right.
side, you have players like Mason Mount, you have players like Christian Pulisic, you have players like Timo Werner, like Havertz, who really haven't had too much Champions League
I know.
experience. So again, it's not we're not seeing a Real Madrid Barcelona, we're not seeing an Atletico Madrid,
Right.
we're seeing players that really haven't been to this type of stage. So that's why, in
Right.
my opinion, why I think it's gonna be so fun to watch because it's gonna be
For sure.
a game where the protagonists haven't been yet. Taking maybe one or
Hmm.
two out, maybe a couple of exceptions. Pep Guardiola as well hasn't been in a final in a long time, and Thomas Tuchel was in a final last year, but wasn't able to win it.
Right.
So again, that's why I think this is so exciting, and I think this might be such a good game. We'll
It's
see
gonna
how it
be a
goes,
great
but I
game.
think City
For
is
sure.
definitely the favorite.
Does Timo Werner score or does he miss all his shots?
he just had, man, he just came from being one of the most important players in the Bundesliga, but just hasn't been on his game, man. It's just been a
I call it the Jovic effect. It's kind of like the same thing. Jovic was doing amazing, and then he goes to Madrid, misses like he gets there, misses all his shots, and then goes back to his former club and scores 2 goals in the first game.
it's just crazy. It's just the amount.
It's,
I don't know. He's a good player. He's showed it in the past. Havertz as well. Havertz was showing such a great level at Bayer Leverkusen, and then he came through. He's had a little, touches here and there of good soccer, but hasn't been what they expected.
right.
So again, I'm really excited to see what maybe Christian Pulisic can definitely bring into the field. You have people like
Is he
Cesar
starting or is he
Azpilicueta,
coming off the bench?
Thiago Silva, players that are a little bit experienced
Right.
in this type of games. But again, Conte, World Cup winner, again, very important player. But it's a matter of fact to see who strikes first. And again, you're gonna remember me tomorrow. I think that's the key. It's who strikes first, because again, we've said it before that there hasn't been, or there's not a lot of players in this, in both teams that have been through this type of stage before, such as a final. So again,
Yeah,
morally and psychologically, I think the one that strikes first might be the one to take the game. I
definitely.
might be
Yeah.
wrong, but I think that's going to
Who
be key,
knows?
because it's not going to be a team where they're going to be able to come back quickly. It might hit them, and
Exactly.
it just
Yeah.
depends how it affects them psychologically. So again, in my
A
opinion,
hun-
the one that strikes
a
first
hundred percent.
might be able to take the game.
Yeah. And we also have to think that like Manchester City might be coming in on a high, that the fact that they have two like trophies in their pocket and they're coming in for a third, that could also affect you, because you come in with this like I'm better than you mentality that could then end up coming back and biting you in the ass without like even
Yeah.
trying to. And not only who strikes first is also who's able to take advantage of the other team's mistakes. Who can figure out each other's games and see how they can kind of f around with that and see who ends up taking it. I don't know. I'm really excited. It's definitely going to be a great game. I'm gonna give it to City, and I think they're gonna win it 2-1. But I don't know if I'm gonna agree with you who takes it first. I think Chelsea strikes first, but
We'll
Manchester
see. I
City
mean,
brings it back in the second half.
Edward Mendy,
I don't
again,
know.
a keeper that has come through, maybe a signing that Chelsea fans didn't have in mind, or they really weren't expecting. Listen,
But it's one that they needed
nine
for
clean
sure.
sheets, 9 clean sheets out of the
Incredible,
last 11 Champions League games. That's
incredible.
outstanding. That's amazing for a goalkeeper. So again, is
Yes.
he going to be key in that final tomorrow? We'll see. Ederson as well, a keeper that wins another Golden Glove in the English Premier League, second year in a row. Again, there's just so many things to take a look at. But again, tactically, once the game starts, that's what I really want to pay attention to. I want to see how Chelsea moves the ball around. I want to see how Man City is able to penetrate through the midfield, to the strong midfield of Chelsea, because with Kante, with Chilwell as well, sometimes playing through and sneaking through the middle, even though he's a fullback. Jorginho as well, doing a really good job. One of those players that's just quiet but gets the job done as well. So again, it's just a fact of seeing who. And again, you're gonna remember me tomorrow. I'm gonna say it again.
Who strikes
Who
first?
strikes first? I think that, in my opinion, is definitely the key. Whoever strikes first, I think that might be the key for the game. But again, really good game ahead of us for sure, no doubt about that.
For
Uh,
sure. Let's go to Europa League.
Europa
We
League.
already know who won it for the first time in 98 years of the club's history. Villarreal finally takes the trophy home, and what a season! Not only did they take the trophy home in an incredible penalty shootout, but they also won it unbeaten. They did not lose any game um, at all. And well, we know Unai Emery. If Unai Emery is in charge of a team that's in an Europa League final, they have like a 33%, an 80%, sorry, an 80% chance of them winning it. He's made it 5 times, has already won it 4. So they kind of had a little bit of an upper hand, but Manchester United was coming in from a high as well. And Premier League, they finally kind of found each
Mhm.
other. So you would have, I don't know about you, but I expected a lot more from this game before even getting to the penalty shootout, because the penalty shootout obviously like exceeded my expectations. I've never seen anything more exciting, and so many players scoring their penalty kicks or like going at it with such a clear
No, they
head
were they were
and
good
just
shots too. They were good
they were on
executions.
fire.
Like,
It wasn't like they were. I think they were not one that it was just like an easy kick. They were all incredible. They just went for it. They weren't scared of it. I think they obviously definitely practiced this before. It was an incredible penalty shootout. If you tweeted it and I repeated it in my video, that it has definitely been one of the cleanest penalty shootouts that I think I've ever seen.
I was just reading some of the comments because also we're live in my YouTube channel, and for example, people are asking where is Harry Kane gonna play next season, and that's a good
Oof,
question. Where is
that's a
Harry
really
Kane
good
gonna play
question.
next season? Because he's definitely not playing
I
in Tottenham. We know that.
No, he's
Um,
leaving. He's very clear on that. Do you think he stays in the Premier
I
League?
think he might stay in the Premier League. I think his destination might be United or City. I don't think he's gonna go to United. I think City might be the destination. He already talked about it a little bit. Chelsea might be as well. If Chelsea can manage to
I
sell some
Chelsea
players, they
sounds
can
a
probably
little
bring
bit
him
more
in.
like it. Yeah, and I mean, Tuchel was asked about it this week in a press conference, and he's been flirting with him a little bit. And it could fit Chelsea's game, and if Timo Werner doesn't prove himself more, then I think they might. Harry Kane might be what Chelsea needs to end up um, scoring more goals because it's what they need. Chelsea has a really strong team, but it just like I think they need a more accuracy when it comes to shooting, like when it comes to actually scoring goals. And Harry Kane can give that to them. And he's a player that's hungry. He's a player that wants to win. He's a player that wants to like he wants to
He wants
give
to get a
goals to their
trophy, bro.
team.
As you say, he wants to get a
Yeah, he
damn
does. He's
trophy.
dying for a
He's been
trophy.
the top
That's why you don't
scorer
go to Tottenham.
forever. One of the
If you want a trophy, you don't stay in Tottenham. That's why he's like, okay, finally, I got it, guys. I'm
one
leaving.
of the best number nines in my opinion in the world. In my opinion, Harry Kane is one of the best number nines in the
He's
world,
great.
and he's not able to get a trophy. Why? Because listen, with all due respect, and I don't like to use these type of words, but Tottenham sucks. They just haven't been able to get a good project. They were able to
Yeah,
obviously get themselves into a Champions League final 2 years ago, which was great. We knew it was a little bit lucky, but it was great. But it's not a team that can aspire to a championship every year. They're just not able to.
every
You know,
single year.
they're
Yeah,
not a winnable team. They've been having
right.
problems. They just build their stadium. So again, they're not a team that can go out there and buy players.
And
They
like
have to pay
spend
back the
money.
stadium. They have money
Yeah,
issues. So again, listen. Here, somebody's telling me in the YouTube channel says the critics with Guardiola have gone too far about spending money when the most recognizable stars like Pogba, Cruz, Dembele, Neymar, Kane are playing somewhere else. City is in the final without a superstar. You can agree with that.
that's
I
huge.
think that's a respectable comment, but at the same time, what I'm saying is when you have so much choices and every single position,
Position.
it's
Yeah,
like listen, if I don't know Bernardo Silva gets injured, you have Mares, which is a world class player. So it's like somebody
right.
gets injured, and there's gonna be somebody behind you right away to back you up, and I think that's the difference between Man City and the rest of the teams
It's
is the fact that they can
huge.
access all those players and maybe other teams can't.
Not just that, but yes, Manchester City made it that far without a big player. But then what do you say about all these teams that have big players? Where's Barcelona with Messi? Where did Juventus go with Cristiano Ronaldo? Where did PSG go with Neymar and Mbappe? They didn't really do anything. So like, how much can this big name really give them?
Another person here is telling me I think he'll go to AC Milan because they'll be playing in the Champions League and they need a number nine. I don't see him going to AC Milan to be honest.
I
It
don't
could
see
be.
him going to Italy. I don't know. Because the way you also have to think about if a player is willing and able to adapt to the way that other leagues play, because every league plays soccer differently. And obviously, coming off of the Premier League, you kind of have a little bit more experience to play in other leagues because of the way that Premier League is. Because Premier League is a league, and it's one of the best, if not the best league in Europe for sure. It's because when you play the first position plays with the last, it's basically as if you're watching a final. Then when you go to to Spain, if Madrid's playing the bottom, sometimes they and then the bottom ends up winning. It's not like as exciting. But I don't know if I see him in Italy. I don't know if he
No.
trusts himself enough to play the way that Italians play soccer.
Listen, Ashley Young left United to go to Inter. He ended up winning the league.
Yeah,
Christian Eriksen left from Tottenham. He ended up going to Inter. He ended up getting a league. So maybe that gives
it's
him
possible.
a little bit of a push. But again, I just don't think that I don't think AC Milan is the team for Harry Kane. I just don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
Again,
I
what I
agree with
do
you
know
for
is
sure
that
on that.
this year Milan is gonna have to definitely make some spending. They have Champions League next year,
Mhm.
and I don't think they want to, disappoint as far as playing in a
Right.
tournament where they have so much history and so much experience on. Um, but definitely they're gonna have to go after at least a good number nine, a couple of midfielders to get their squad strong. You're gonna burst teams like Real Madrid, like Barcelona, like Chelsea, like City, potential rivals that you don't want to be left looking a little bit dumb. So they're gonna have to go out there and
Right.
make some spending, something that they haven't been able to do the last couple of years. Other than the
Hmm.
signing of Ibrahimovic, who really didn't cost them anything. They just have to pay his salary. So again,
Yeah.
definitely gonna have to go after someone. To close the Europa League chapter, just so we can definitely just move on from there.
Yeah.
Very excited for Villarreal. I think United did a little bit more to take it, but it's not about who did more. It's about who ended up putting it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Villarreal did better in the penalty shootouts. Again, really happy for them. You know, a team like you said with 90 something years of history that wasn't able to obtain a tournament, they finally got it through. And again, Europa League, it's in my opinion, it's a very exciting tournament. I liked watching it all the time.
It definitely
I like
is.
to watch it all the time, and again, sometimes it's
People
like that.
sleep on it, and they're missing great soccer.
Yeah, and it's like the Copa Sudamericana in South America. You know, you have sometimes people look at it. Oh, you have maybe shitty teams, but it's not really about that. If we take a look at who's in Copa Sudamericana, we're gonna go over that in a second. Just to quickly go over who qualified and who did into the next round. You have very teams with a lot of history, a lot of prestigious teams. So it was really excited to see a final like that. Really, I think that the overtime or the extra time, whatever you want to call it, it was kind of boring. But also taking considerations where players were really exhausted because they had just come from
They were
playing
so
during
bad.
the weekend.
Yeah.
Again, a final takes a lot from you, not only physically but psychologically as well. Um,
Psychologically, yeah, for sure.
so again, Villarreal took it, and now we're gonna have the Super Cup, which is gonna be between Villarreal and whoever takes the Champions League tomorrow. So that's about it. I don't think we missed anything as far as but we could probably talk a little bit about Benzema returning to the French national team. I think that was some exciting
It's
news for the
huge,
French. Now they can count with
for sure.
Benzema as a
Do you
striker.
think they win it? Do they take it now? Do they take the Euros 2021?
That'll be something really amazing for them right now. Taking into consideration what the rest of the teams are looking like. Listen, Germany's not doing so well. Italy's not doing so well. Spain,
Spain, for the first time, I think in their history, is playing without a Real Madrid player,
yeah. I mean, I don't think any
and
Real
Spain has
Madrid
been
player in any way
struggling.
deserved to be on the squad this year. Maybe Nacho, he had a good
No,
closure of the season, but other than that, I really can't think of a player of Real Madrid that really deserved to be there. I would have maybe taken Sergio Ramos just because of what he really means to Real Madrid.
right.
Uh,
It's what he brings to a team. Like, maybe he doesn't play, but he does bring you like personality, and he brings you what a captain should bring to a
yeah,
team, which sometimes you lack a little bit of personality, courage, or like something. I like to like say it in Spanish always, like you lack a little bit of cojones, and that's something that Sergio Ramos can bring into any team that he plays in, just because of who he is and his personality. And I understand that he also, like, we all should understand why he wasn't called up. He is injured. He
yeah.
hasn't been at his at his top game. So why would you give that position to him when you can give that also to other players who may not have the chance, because Sergio Ramos is always there. But I agree with you. I think he should have been called up because he could have given you something else, not just what he gives you as a defensive player, and sometimes even as an offensive, as a striker, when he like gets that in his head and tries to give you a beautiful goal in a minute like
Listen,
92
we're
or
talking
94.
about a player that
But
scores
I
a
agree
lot of
with you. I think
goals,
they should have.
on corner kicks, on set pieces. Yeah, he takes a lot of
Or a
penalties as well,
defense,
but it's a
yeah.
player that every time he's in the box, offensively speaking, he can be pretty dangerous. I think I would have taken him, but again, maybe that would have been unfair to other players who's been on a good level and have been playing. Also, I think there's a little thing there between, Luis Enrique being a former Barca coach and not calling any Real Madrid players. That's something else. I'm not really going to get into that. But it's definitely, really caught your attention. And that also lets you know the amount of foreigners that you have on your squad. Real Madrid doesn't have a lot of Spaniards other than Sergio Ramos, Nacho.
It's a lot of
Who else am I
international
missing?
players. Yep.
Asensio, maybe a couple more. There's not really a lot of Spaniards. It's all foreign players. So again, that also lets you know the amount
Yep.
of foreigner players that they have along all these leagues, such as the EPL or the best leagues in the world, full of foreigners, full of people from either South America or from other parts of the world. To shift a little bit, we're shifting into this continent. We're shifting into America because I don't think North
Let's
America is a
go.
continent. I think all of America is a continent. I know here in school they teach you that North America is its own continent.
No,
I
no.
don't believe that.
America.
I'm gonna go with whatever the
No.
rest of the world says, not what
No
America says.
continent.
So we're gonna shift into this continent. We're gonna shift into the Americas.
Let's move from Europe here. Let's take the trip.
The one thing I wanted to talk about, we had the World Cup qualifiers, and as Jose Mourinho and many other, famous coaches and very prestigious players and coaches and different staff have said in the past, the World Cup qualifiers in South America are the most toughest in the world. We have two coming up, and I just quickly want to go over some of the games. Match day 7 of 18. What's going to happen here? The match day 7 and 8 are going to be played ahead instead of playing 4 and 5. 5 and 6. And again, this is definitely to benefit Argentina. I have no problem saying that. Obviously, Conmebol always making they're always getting their hands into something to benefit whoever they have to benefit. What Conmebol has done has just been honestly disgusting as far as obligating teams to play in a country like Colombia, who's right now going through a civil war. And when I mean civil war, a war between the government and the people, because of taxes being raised on the lower middle class. So again, different situations. Every time Comebol gets a chance to
Right.
make it up, they even take the worst choice possible. But
Don't take
again,
it. Yep.
leaving that aside, Bolivia, Venezuela, this was gonna happen next Thursday. So again, next Thursday we finish Champions League this season. Most of the leagues are over, and we're already starting with the national teams.
And we're straight back. Yep.
So next week we have Bolivia, Venezuela from 4 o'clock. Uruguay, Paraguay, and Uruguay at 6 p.m. Argentina is gonna be playing Chile. I think this is a very exciting game, as well as Peru, Colombia. This one's going to happen Thursday at 10. It's going to be a little later. And then Brazil closing with Ecuador. Brazil, one of the top teams. Ecuador has been having a great start of the qualifiers. A team that, scored, if I'm not mistaken, 6 on Colombia, 4 on Uruguay. And they can keep going. So, again, now they have a tough test where they have to versus Brazil, one of the teams that's been up there in the top. And then the second match day, which is going to happen the following Tuesday, it's going to be Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela, Uruguay. That's going to be the one right there. Colombia, Argentina, definitely a good one to watch. Paraguay, Brazil,
I'm so scared
and
of that
Chile,
game.
Bolivia. And the qualifiers are pretty tight. Right now Brazil first,
They're
Argentina,
definitely
Ecuador,
pretty tight.
Paraguay, and Uruguay. Those are the top, 5 spots. At the bottom we have Venezuela, Peru, and Bolivia. Peru and Bolivia only with 1 point, and then Venezuela up there with 3. Nothing much to talk about other than the fact that it's going. Some teams are really struggling. Colombia wasn't able to call up James Rodriguez. We had somebody there in my YouTube channel asking what's going on. I actually have a couple of comments that I'm gonna read in a second. But again, it's a matter of fact that there's a lot of things that this COVID has done. A lot of things to South American soccer. I think worse than European.
Sure.
The fact that back in March, when the qualifiers were supposed to be played, the players weren't giving to the national teams. The clubs didn't want to make the players travel, etc., etc. So again, it's been a really tough atmosphere. I don't know if you want to add something to that as far as qualifiers, as far as Copa America. We could definitely discuss Copa America next week or the week after. We could do like a special live.
We definitely can. We'll get into it. We'll get into it closer to the date. I think the only thing that it's worth mentioning, for my Venezuelan followers, now Nintendo has been coming up with a little bit of momentum, but now they're kind of struggling because COVID and injuries are taking away some very important players. Now there's rumors going around that Soteldo might be injured, and I don't know if the MLS is going to let him go. So there's one of the most, I think, if not the best player that the Vino Tinto has right now, not going to be able to play. At least Joseph Martinez is back. He's no longer injured, so he'll be playing. But we're going to be playing against Uruguay, a team that has, I think, one of the best squads, in my opinion, in South America. And I don't know. It's kind of sad for me as a Vino Tinto follower, as a Vino Tinto fan, because we do have this momentum and we could finally make it to a World Cup. Not to make it really far, but we'll make it and we can say that we made it. But COVID and injuries end up kind of really ruining that for Vino Tinto. And the same thing with what's happening with James not being called up to Colombia, and it's the same exact thing. He's been going through some tests, and apparently he's not as fit as we think he is.
He was disappointed not being called up, Mr. Jaimito Rodriguez.
And I don't know, is Colombia going to be, because again, if one of your big players isn't called up because of injuries, that could also affect the team psychologically. You could have a great squad, but if your big name is not there, it affects you psychologically. It could affect the way you play. It could also be that a lot of teams end up kind of structuring their plays around one player, which is a really bad decision. Argentina has been doing that for years with Messi, and I think that's why they've been suffering for so long. They haven't actually won a big international, won anything in a while. So it's kind of how is Colombia really gonna be able to do this without James? And the same with Venezuela. How's Venezuela going to be able to do this without Soteldo, without other names?
Listen, Uruguay's missing Cavani for these next two games. Cavani's not going to be available. One of the players that's had a great end of the season. He's not going to be available.
An incredible season with Manchester United.
So again, a lot of downs. A lot of players that are down for different reasons, suspensions, COVID, whatever it is. But again, it's really interesting to see what happens, because I think now we're shifting into more games, and I think this is where that gap between the bottom and the top can start happening. So again, these two next games that are going to happen on starting on June 2nd, June 3rd, I think they're going to be kind of decisive towards what is coming in the future as far as qualifying to the World Cup. I know in some countries they're really not giving a crap about Copa America. They're straight up focusing on the World Cup qualifiers. That's their priority, and I I agree with that,
priority.
honestly. This Copa America, I think it was just made so Messi can finally win something, especially now it's going to be made only in Argentina. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, and if Messi doesn't win this one, they're going to come up with a new Copa America next year,
For
and
the,
they're going to make a
and then like
special
in the
edition
next 6 months, in
in
December,
December,
just like
and then they're going
kind
to
of
make
like a
another one
Qatar
next
type
year,
of
and then
thing.
until Messi finally wins it. So again, that's what they've been doing. But I mean, again, a lot of
So what happens if he does win it? Do you not count this Copa America for Messi?
no, it's a Copa America, of course. If you won it, you won, especially because you have all teams participating. To all
Nah.
my good Colombian
Yeah.
friends that won it back in 2001, you have to say that Brazil took a secondary squad, Argentina didn't go. So again, you guys over there in Colombia, that's a different story. But if Messi wins this one, obviously it'll be legit. We'll see how the process of
Yeah.
the VAR or the referees goes through. A lot of controversy last Copa America as far as some of the decisions made in the
Way too
final, in
many.
the game of Uruguay and
Yeah.
Peru, some of the other
Yeah.
games. So again, that's pretty much it. Because honestly, our time is running out. Our Instagram live is gonna pretty much finish anytime now because we only have an hour. That's something
We've been
Instagram
at
should
it
fix. They should give us
for
more
a
than an
very
hour.
long
But
time for sure.
I think that's pretty much it. What we're gonna do is when we touch Copa America, when we do a live about Copa America, probably like in a week or so. Francisco, let me see. No,
He wants you to let them win
he
one.
wants. Yeah, they gotta win. I mean, they haven't won anything since
Klaus, you're
1990.
the
I just
reason
don't want
they're not
Argentina to
winning.
win, not because I hate Argentina. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want them to
You're
tie
a
us.
hater.
We have 15.
You're a hater.
We're up there in the top 15 Copa Americas. No one else has more. So again, I really don't want nobody tying us. But listen, has Argentina and again, I'm really competitive and I don't want Argentina or Brazil ever winning anything. But if I look at it from a point of, neutral, listen, Argentina made it to the final in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, 2007. Then they made it to the final in
Right.
2014 of the World Cup, 2015, 2016. Listen, it's time for them to get something. I think it's finally time for them
It
to get
is.
something.
It is.
And again, it was pretty unlucky what happened in 2006 in that game against Germany. Pretty unlucky what happened against Chile in the penalty shootouts. In
Twice.
the final
What
against
happened against
Germany,
Chile?
what happened,
Twice.
that was just crazy. They had everything to win it and they couldn't
Yeah.
win it. So again, if Argentina takes this one, honestly, I won't be that upset. I'll just be upset at the fact that we get tied on Copa Americas. But it is what it is. I don't know if you have anything else left. I'm pretty much done. I don't think I have. We'll leave.
I
We'll leave
think
Copa
we
Libertadores
covered
and Copa
a lot.
Sudamericana when we talk about Copa America because we're already gonna have the fixtures of the round of 16. So it's gonna be a little bit better
Right.
to talk about and analyze. Right now, we just have the teams that have qualified, so
Perfect.
we really don't have that much information.
For sure. We definitely will. Klaus, thank you so much for joining my life and talking about everything soccer. But we'll definitely do this again closer to Copa America, closer to Euro 2021 and see what happens with Benzema. Will he take it? Will he not?
We'll see what happens. It's definitely exciting to see him back in the national team. Hopefully, he doesn't mess it up this
It was
time.
about time.
Francisco Juarez says our generation has not seen the senior national team of Argentina win a title. The 1993 Copa America was the last. That's what I'm saying. I think it's time for them to finally
I think it's time.
finally get it. Even though they did get the Olympic Games in 2008, I was a big fan of Argentina
Right.
in that tournament just because Juan Román Riquelme was playing it, one of my favorite players of all time. Even though he's
Yeah.
Argentinian, that's one of my favorite players of all time, even more than Forlan, than any Uruguayan out there. That's definitely one of my favorite ones. So again, I was cheering for Argentina, but
That's
again,
a big
Olympic
statement
Games
from you.
really, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't count as the
It
same. So-
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't give you the same type of feeling. But hey, it's still a trophy, and I think Messi also finally deserves it. I think people need to stop with the he's not the greatest because he hasn't won anything with Argentina. So fine, he'll win the Copa America, and then you guys can all shut up.
Yeah, he'll win. He'll
But
never be
he
as
won't
good as
stop because he's
Maradona.
never
That's
won
for
a
sure, in my
World Cup.
opinion. Never even be good as close as Maradona. But I think it'll be good for him to definitely. He deserves it. He deserves it. He's made enough.
Yeah.
He's earned enough credit to earn it. So we'll see what happens. But
For sure.
nothing. I just want to thank you for the live. Obviously, the people that came through, that commented, that participated, and obviously the people on my
Thank you
YouTube channel
so
as well. A
much.
lot of people commenting. I didn't get to read all of the comments, but I want to thank people as well. I have people on Twitch, people on YouTube, people on Facebook. So thanks everybody that participated. We'll definitely make another one
For
pretty
sure.
soon about Copa America right before when
We-
it's about to start. We'll analyze some of the teams, see what players
We
were
will.
brought, because obviously the final list hasn't been made for any of the teams yet. They don't know what player is going to be there and who's not. So we'll analyze
Who's
that
not,
later
yeah.
on. And nothing. It's been a pleasure
For
like
sure.
always.
And if anybody has any controversial topics that you guys want us to talk about in soccer, we love talking about controversy in the sport. So just let us know in Klaus' YouTube channel or in my Instagram. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you,
Have a
Klaus.
good